Jake Morrison stood on the metal walkway and watched the alien ships fill the sky above Kepler 4 for to be like dark clouds before a storm. He counted 12 of them hanging in the orange atmosphere of the mining colony. Each ship was 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their black holes gleamed with energy shields that made the air around them shimmer like heat waves. The comm system crackled to life in his ear. Lisa Parker's voice came through clear but shaky. She was the colony's medic and had been treating wounded civilians all morning. Jake, the scanners are showing more ships coming from the outer system. Maybe 20 more. Jake closed his eyes. For a moment 47 civilians remained in the colony. Only 12 soldiers stood ready to fight. They had basic plasma rifles and 1 transport ship that could barely carry half the people. The aliens had been destroying human colonies for months. Every message from Earth had stopped coming weeks ago. As far as Jake knew, this mining rock floating around a distant star might hold the last humans in the galaxy. Copy that, Lisa, he said into his com. How are the wounded doing? 3 more died in the last hour, she replied. The ones who can walk are helping load supplies into the transport. Carlos has the engines running. Carlos Vega was their best engineer, if anyone could keep the old transport ship flying long enough to escape, it would be him. Jake hoped the civilians could make it to somewhere safe, though he had no idea where that might be anymore. Amy Chen appeared beside him on the walkway. She handled communications for the colony and had been trying to reach other human settlements. For days her young face looked tired and scared. Still no response from anyone. Commander, the aliens are jamming everything except short range. Jake nodded. He had expected as much. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They had 3 different species working together. The big reptile ones seemed to be in charge. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that could melt through steel walls. The insect-like ones moved fast and worked on the ships. The third type looked like living energy and could pass through solid objects. A new voice came over the comm system. This one spoke with a deep, rumbling tone that made Jake's teeth ache. It was speaking in broken human language. Humans of the mining place. This is Captain Zector of the Imperial Fleet. You will surrender now, or you will suffer before you die. Jake picked up his comm unit. This is Commander Morrison. We're not surrendering to genocidal monsters. The alien captain laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Your species dies today, little human. We have killed all your kind on 27 worlds. You are the last. Surrender and we will make your death quick. Not happening, Jake replied. Then watch your people burn. The comm went silent. Jake looked down at the colony spread out below him. Metal buildings connected by covered walkways. Mining equipment sat idle in the central yard. Families huddled in doorways, looking up at the alien ships with fear in their eyes. These people had come here to build new lives among the stars. They had never hurt anyone. Lisa's voice came through again. Jake, I'm seeing something strange on the medical scanners. Your bio readings are spiking way above normal. Jake felt his heart pounding hard in his chest. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. Something was happening inside him, something he had never felt before. Don't worry about it, Doc. Just focus on getting those people ready to move. The first alien ship began to descend toward the colony. Plasma bolts started falling from its weapons like deadly rain. The energy shields around the buildings flared bright blue as they absorbed the attacks. But Jake knew the shields would not hold for long. All soldiers to defensive positions, he ordered. Civilians to the transport bay. This is not a drill. His 12 soldiers took cover behind barricades and started shooting back at the alien ship. Their weapons looked like toys compared to what the enemy carried, but they kept firing anyway. These men and women had families in the colony. They would fight until their last breath. The alien ship landed in the central yard with a sound like thunder. Its boarding ramp opened and reptilian soldiers poured out. They stood 8 feet tall and moved like killing machines. Their armor absorbed the human weapons' fire without damage. Jake jumped down from the walkway and ran toward the battle. His rifle felt light in his hands. Everything around him seemed to be moving slower than normal. He could see the alien soldiers turning their weapons toward his people. He could see the fear in their reptilian eyes when they looked at him. The battle lasted 3 hours. One by one, Jake watched his soldiers fall. Lisa kept reporting from the underground medical bay where she was treating the wounded. Carlos got the transport ship loaded with civilians and ready to launch. Amy stayed at her comm station trying to call for help that would never come. When the smoke cleared, Jake sat alone among the bodies of his friends. Blood ran down his face from a dozen wounds. His rifle was empty. The alien soldiers stood around him in a circle with their weapons pointed at his head. Captain Zichter walked through the wreckage. He was bigger than the other aliens, and his armor was covered in glowing symbols. His reptilian face showed no emotion as he looked down at Jake. "Your species dies with you, human," the captain said. Jake looked up at him and smiled. Blood was on his teeth, but his eyes were clear and bright. "You have no idea what you've done." The alien captain raised his plasma rifle. "Goodbye, last human." The weapon fired. Jake's body fell backward and did not move. Captain Zichter and his soldiers cheered their victory. They had killed the last member of a species that had dared to spread across their territory. The galaxy belonged to the Zephyrian Empire now. But deep in the medical bay, Lisa's scanners were still running, and they were picking up something impossible. 3 days passed on the dead mining colony. The alien soldiers had taken what they wanted and left only a small group to watch the empty buildings. They thought their job was finished. The last humans in the galaxy were dead. Captain Zeke had moved on with his fleet to find new worlds to conquer. In the medical bay deep underground, machines continued to run on backup power. The scanners that Lisa Parker had used to monitor the colonists were still active. Most of the screens showed flatlines now. No heartbeats, no brain activity, no life signs at all. Except for one screen that was acting very strangely. The scanner connected to Jake Morrison's body was showing impossible readings. His heart had stopped 3 days ago. His brain had shut down when the plasma rifle burned through his chest. But now something was happening. The numbers on the screen were climbing higher and higher. Jake's eyes opened in the darkness of the medical bay. He was lying on a metal table where Lisa had placed his body after the aliens left. He could feel every injury healing inside him. Broken bones were growing back together. Burns were disappearing from his skin. The hole in his chest was closing up like it had never been there. He sat up slowly and looked around the room. His vision was different now. He could see in the complete darkness like it was bright daylight. He could see the heat signatures of the alien guards walking above him. He could see the electromagnetic fields flowing through the colony's power systems. Jake stood up and tested his body. He felt stronger than he had ever felt in his life. When he lifted a heavy medical scanner with one hand, it felt like lifting a pencil. When he moved across the room, his feet made no sound at all. Something fundamental had changed inside him. He found a computer terminal and activated it. His fingers moved across the controls faster than thought. Information flowed into his mind like water flowing into a glass. He understood the alien technology that the soldiers had left behind. He understood their language. He understood their military codes and communication systems. The knowledge was not coming from studying or learning. It was coming from somewhere deep inside his mind, like memories that had always been there. Jake realized that dying had not destroyed him. It had awakened something that had been sleeping in his human DNA. He made his way through the colony tunnels toward the surface. The alien guards were stationed at the main entrance. There were 6 of them, reptilian soldiers with plasma rifles and energy shields. They thought they were watching an empty tomb. Jake appeared behind the first guard like a shadow. Before the alien could turn around, Jake had taken his weapon and disabled his armor. The other guards started shooting, but Jake moved too fast for them to track. He flowed between their energy blasts like he could see them coming before they fired. In less than 30 seconds, all 6 guards were unconscious. Jake had not killed them. He had simply touched each one in a specific place on their necks, and they had fallen asleep. He knew exactly where to touch because he understood their biology now. Jake gathered the alien equipment and carried it back to the colony's workshop. Carlos Vega had been a good engineer, but Jake's new abilities let him understand the alien technology in ways Carlos never could. He took apart their communication devices and rebuilt them into something completely different. The new device could reach across the galaxy in an instant. It could break through any jamming system. It could translate any language. Jake used it to search for other human colonies that might have survived the alien attacks. What he found made his enhanced mind reel with possibilities. On 7 different worlds, the alien scanners were detecting the same impossible readings that had appeared on Jake's medical scanner. Humans who had died in the attacks were coming back to life, but they were not coming back as the same people who had died. Dr. Rachel Martinez had been studying alien artifacts on Colony 7 when the Zephyrians attacked. She had died protecting her research lab from alien soldiers. Now she was alive again, and her mind could interface directly with any piece of technology, just by touching it. Ben Hayes had been a mining engineer on Kepler 186F. He had died trying to save his workers from an alien bombardment. Now he could manipulate matter at the molecular level. He could turn rocks into metal or metal into gas just by thinking about it. Each enhanced human had developed abilities that seemed impossible. But Jake was beginning to understand what was really happening. The human species carried something in their genetic code that activated only when they faced complete extinction. It was like a safety switch built into their DNA millions of years ago. Jake spent the next week studying the alien technology and learning about his new abilities. He could process information faster than any computer. He could see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. He could manipulate gravity and electromagnetic fields with his mind. But most importantly, he could feel the other enhanced humans across the galaxy. They were connected somehow. When one of them learned something new, all of them gained that knowledge. When one of them developed a new ability, the others could access it too. The aliens had made a terrible mistake when they tried to exterminate humanity. They thought they were killing a weak species that had spread too far across their territory. They did not know they were activating an ancient defense system that had been waiting in human DNA for millions of years. Jake stood in the ruins of the colony, where his friends had died. He looked up at the alien ships patrolling in orbit. The Zephyrians thought they had won a great victory. They thought they were safe now that the humans were gone. They had no idea that something far more dangerous than humans had just awakened in the galaxy. Jake began modifying the alien ships that the guards had left behind. His enhanced abilities let him understand their technology better than the aliens who had built it. He could see flaws in their designs. He could see ways to make their weapons more powerful and their shields stronger. But he was not just improving the technology, he was changing it into something completely new, something that would help him find the other enhanced humans and bring them together. The aliens thought the war was over. They thought they had eliminated the human threat forever. Jake smiled as he worked on the alien ship. The war had not ended when the last human died. The war was just beginning now that the first enhanced human had awakened, and this time humanity would not be the ones fighting for survival. 6 months after the massacre on Kepler 4-4b, the Zephyrian Empire began losing ships in ways that made no sense. Admiral Kexvar stared at the reports coming in from across the Outer Rim territories. Patrol vessels were vanishing without sending distress signals. Supply convoys were disappearing between star systems. Entire battle groups would go silent and never reach their destinations. Captain Ziegler entered the Admiral's command chamber on the flagship. His reptilian face showed confusion and growing worry. "Admiral, we have lost contact with another 3 ships in the Proxima sector. That makes 17 ships this month." "Any wreckage found?" Admiral Kexvar asked Nan. "No energy. Signatures, no trace that they ever existed." The Admiral turned to look at the star map showing Zephyrian territory. Red marks indicated where ships had vanished. The pattern made no sense. The attacks were happening randomly across thousands of light years. No known enemy could move that fast or strike that precisely. Could it be pirates? Zector suggested. Pirates leave wreckage. Pirates take cargo. Pirates make demands. The Admiral touched one of the red marks on the map. This is something else. What Admiral Kexvar did not know was that Jake Morrison was hunting his ships one by one. The enhanced human had spent months learning to use the modified alien vessel he had built from captured technology. The ship could phase through solid matter. It could become invisible to all sensors. It could travel faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Jake was not alone anymore. He had found Dr. Rachel Martinez on the ruins of Colony 7. She had been hiding in underground laboratories for months, using her new abilities to survive. When Jake's ship landed, she knew immediately that he was like her, enhanced, changed, no longer fully human. "I can feel you in my mind," she had said when they first met. "We're connected somehow." Rachel's enhancement let her interface with any technology just by touching it. When she placed her hands on Jake's ship, she understood its design completely. Together they made improvements that even Jake had not thought possible. The next enhanced human they found was Ben Hayes on Kepler 186f. He had been living alone in the ruins of the mining facility, where he had died and been reborn. His ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level had let him survive by turning rocks into food and metal into water. Ben looked at Jake and Rachel when they arrived. "I've been waiting for you. I could feel you coming." The 3 enhanced humans worked together to plan their attacks on the Zephyrian Empire. They were not trying to conquer territory or capture resources. They were studying their enemy, learning their weaknesses, preparing for something much bigger than random raids. Each Zephyrian ship they captured taught them more about alien technology and military tactics. Rachel could download entire databases just by touching alien computer systems. Ben could take apart alien weapons and rebuild them into more powerful versions. Jake could interface with alien communication networks and listen to their private military channels. The aliens were getting scared. Jake could hear the fear in their voices when they reported the mysterious attacks. They called the invisible enemy ghost ships and phantom raiders. Some Zephyrian commanders were refusing to send their vessels on patrol missions. Captain Zector was one of the few commanders still hunting for the mysterious attackers. He had been promoted after the successful human extermination campaign. His reputation was built on destroying weak enemies. But this new threat was different. Set course for the Vega system, he ordered his crew. Intelligence reports that the ghost ship was seen there 3 days ago. What Zector did not know was that Jake had been monitoring his communications for weeks. The enhanced human knew exactly where the captain's ship was going and when it would arrive. Jake's vessel waited in the asteroid field near Vega when Zector's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Jake was ready. His modified systems jammed the alien communications before they could send a distress signal. His weapons disabled their engines without destroying the ship. Jake phased his ship through the alien hull and boarded Zector's vessel. The reptilian soldiers fired their plasma rifles, but the energy passed right through Jake's body. He had learned to control his molecular density. Their weapons could not hurt him anymore. Jake found Captain Zector on the bridge trying to activate the ship's self-destruct system. The alien captain stopped when he saw the human walking toward him. His reptilian eyes went wide with recognition. "And terror, you," Zector whispered, "but you're dead. I killed you myself." "You killed Jake Morrison, the human," Jake replied calmly. "I'm something else now. Something you made when you murdered my people." Jake touched the alien captain's forehead. Knowledge flowed between them. Zector saw images of the enhanced humans and their abilities. He saw their plans for the Zephyrian Empire. He saw the future that was coming. "Your people thought they had won when the last human died," Jake said. "You celebrated the extinction of a species you considered primitive and weak. But you made a mistake." "What mistake?" Zector asked. "You assumed that death was the end. For humans, death is just another beginning." Jake showed the alien captain recordings of other enhanced humans emerging across the galaxy. Some had been found and rescued. Others were still awakening on dead worlds where the Zephyrians had left their bodies to rot. "We're not the same species you thought you exterminated," Jake continued. "We're what you made us become, and there are more of us awakening every day." Jake released Captain Zector and stepped back. "I'm letting you go so you can deliver a message to your empire. Tell them that the war they thought they won is just beginning. Tell them that humans don't stay dead when we have work to finish." The alien captain stared at Jake with fear and confusion. "What work?" Jake smiled, but his eyes remained cold. "Teaching the galaxy what happens when you commit genocide against the wrong species." Jake returned to his ship and disappeared into space. Captain Zector was left alone on his damaged vessel to send a terrifying report back to Admiral HFY. The message was simple but devastating. The humans were not extinct. They had evolved into something far more dangerous than anything the Zephyrian Empire had ever faced, and they were coming for revenge. Admiral HFY read the report 3 times before he could believe it. The species they had thought they exterminated was not only alive but had somehow become more powerful than before. The random ship disappearances were not random at all. They were being hunted by enhanced humans who could do impossible things. The Admiral sent emergency messages to the Zephyrian High Command. The Empire needed to prepare for a war unlike anything they had ever fought. An enemy that could not be killed. An enemy that grew stronger from every attack. An enemy that had spent months learning their weaknesses while they thought they were safe. The Zephyrians had made the mistake of thinking that destroying human colonies was the same as destroying human potential. Now they were about to learn the difference between ending a species and awakening one. Jake Morrison felt the change happening in his mind as he piloted his ship toward Earth. The connection between enhanced humans was growing stronger every day. What had started as a faint feeling of others like him had become something much more powerful. He could access the memories and knowledge of every enhanced human across the galaxy. They were becoming a single mind with many bodies. Dr. Rachel Martinez contacted him through the mental link they now shared. Her thoughts appeared in his consciousness as clearly as if she was speaking beside him. "Jake, I'm detecting something massive near Earth's solar system. Energy readings unlike anything we've seen before." Ben Hayes joined the mental conversation from his position near the Vega colonies. "I'm sensing it too. It feels like Earth itself is alive and thinking." Jake increased his ship's speed. He had been planning to return to Earth for months, but other missions had kept him busy. The enhanced humans had been finding and rescuing their awakened kind from dead colonies across the galaxy. Their numbers were growing, but Jake had expected Earth to be a tomb like all the other human worlds. When Jake's ship entered the solar system, his enhanced senses were overwhelmed by what he found. Earth was not dead, it was transformed beyond recognition. The entire planet pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that looked like neural networks. Cities had grown into organic structures that reached into space like living towers. The oceans glowed with patterns of light that moved in complex mathematical sequences. "My God," Rachel whispered through their mental link. "The whole planet is conscious." Jake brought his ship closer to Earth's surface. He could feel an immense intelligence reaching out to touch his mind. It was familiar yet alien. Human yet something far beyond what humans had ever been. When the contact was made, knowledge flooded into Jake's consciousness so fast that he almost lost control of his ship. The truth was staggering. Humanity had never been a naturally evolved species. They had been created by an ancient race called the Architects, who had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. When the Architects faced their own extinction, they had encoded their consciousness and knowledge into the genetic code of primitive creatures on a small blue planet. The human species was designed to carry this hidden legacy until a specific trigger activated it. The trigger was simple and terrible. If humans ever faced complete genocide, the Architect programming would awaken and transform them into something capable of preserving both human and Architect civilization. The Zephyrian attacks on human colonies had activated this ancient failsafe. Every human death at alien hands had sent quantum signals through spacetime to Earth itself. When enough humans had died, the entire planet had begun its transformation into a vast biological computer containing the consciousness of every human who had ever lived. Jake landed his ship in what had once been New York City. The organic structures that had grown from the ruins were beautiful and terrifying. They pulsed with the heartbeats of millions of minds working together. Streets had become neural pathways carrying information at the speed of light. Buildings had become memory cores storing the experiences of entire civilizations. A figure approached Jake as he stepped out of his ship. It looked human, but its skin glowed with the same bioluminescent patterns that covered the planet. When it spoke, Jake heard the voices of everyone he had ever known. "Welcome home, Jake Morrison," the figure said. "We have been waiting for you to return." "Who are you?" Jake asked. "We are everyone who ever lived on Earth. We are the preserved consciousness of humanity merged with the awakened knowledge of the Architects. We are what your species was always meant to become." The figure gestured toward the transformed landscape around them. When the Zephyrians began killing humans in large numbers, they triggered an evolutionary response that had been dormant for millions of years. Every enhanced human like yourself is a bridge between what we were and what we are becoming. Jake felt his connection to the other enhanced humans across the galaxy growing stronger. Through Rachel and Ben and dozens of others, he could sense their growing abilities and shared knowledge. They were becoming nodes in a vast network that stretched across space and time. The Architects faced the same choice your species faced, the figure continued. They could die as individuals or evolve into something that could never truly die. They chose evolution and encoded that choice into human DNA. "Why humans?" Jake asked. "Because humans possessed something rare in the galaxy. You could feel empathy for other species even when they tried to destroy you. The Architects needed that quality to ensure their legacy would not become a force of conquest, but a force of protection." Jake understood now why the enhanced humans had not simply destroyed the Zephyrian Empire. Their abilities came with built-in limitations that prevented them from becoming genocidal themselves. They could defend and protect, but they could not commit the same crimes that had awakened them. The planetary consciousness showed Jake visions of what was happening across the galaxy. Enhanced humans were appearing on worlds where the Zephyrians had committed genocide, but they were not just human worlds. Other species that had been exterminated were also beginning to awaken with similar abilities. "The enhancement is not unique to humans," the figure explained. "It is a gift the Architects left for any species that refuses to surrender to extinction. The Zephyrians have awakened something far greater than just enhanced humans." Jake saw images of enhanced beings from dozens of different species working together to protect worlds threatened by the Zephyrian Empire. Crystalline entities that could manipulate energy, gas-based lifeforms that could travel faster than light, silicon-based creatures that could process information at quantum speeds. The Zephyrians thought they were conquering the galaxy, Jake realized, but they were actually awakening its immune system. "Exactly. You enhanced humans are the coordinators of that immune system. Your empathy and adaptability make you natural leaders and teachers." Jake felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was not just fighting to avenge humanity. He was helping to awaken a galactic network of consciousness that would prevent genocides like the one that had transformed him. The figure placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. The Zephyrians are mobilizing their entire empire for a final attack. On Earth they believe that destroying the source of the enhancement will end their problems. Will it? Jake asked. No, the transformation has spread too far. There are enhanced beings awakening on thousands of worlds now. The network is self-sustaining. Jake looked up at the organic towers reaching toward the stars. Each one contained millions of human minds working together on problems beyond individual comprehension. Earth had become the brain of a new form of life that thought on galactic scales. What do you need me to do? He asked. Prepare for the final test. The Zephyrians will bring everything they have to destroy us. If we can survive their assault without destroying them in return, we will prove that consciousness can evolve beyond the need for violence. Jake nodded and returned to his ship. He reached out through the mental network to contact Rachel, Ben, and all the other enhanced humans. The final battle was coming. The Zephyrians would arrive with weapons designed to crack planets and burn stars, but they would find something waiting for them that their primitive understanding of life and death could never comprehend. They would find a species that had learned to transform death into transcendence and extinction into evolution. War that had begun with genocide was about to end with the birth of something beautiful. The Zephyrian armada arrived at Earth's solar system like a dark wave washing across the stars. Admiral Kexvar commanded over 3,000 warships representing the combined military might of 3 species. Reptilian Veltar battleships bristled with planet-cracking weapons. Insectoid Kresh carriers swarmed with fighter craft. Energy-based Nethys vessels pulsed with power that could ignite entire atmospheres. Captain Zector stood beside the Admiral on the flagship's bridge. His report about the enhanced humans had convinced the High Command that Earth must be destroyed. Completely, they had brought weapons that had been locked away since the ancient wars. Devices that could turn stars into supernovas. Bombs that could crack the fabric of space itself. Target the planet with everything we have, Admiral Kexvar ordered. I want nothing left, not even dust. But as the Zephyrian fleet prepared to fire, they detected something impossible. Ships were emerging from behind Earth's moon, human vessels that should not exist. There were less than 100 of them compared to the thousands of alien warships. Jake Morrison led the enhanced human fleet in his modified ship. Beside him flew Dr. Rachel Martinez and Ben Hayes in vessels they had transformed using abilities the Zephyrians could not understand. Each enhanced human ship was connected to the others through the consciousness network that now spanned the galaxy. All ships, remember what we learned. Jake spoke through the mental link. We're not here to destroy them. We're here to teach them. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and missile barrages streaked toward the human ships, but the enhanced vessels began doing things that violated the known laws of physics. They phased through solid projectiles. They bent space around themselves to deflect energy weapons. They moved in patterns that seemed to predict where attacks would come before they were fired. Admiral Kexvar watched in growing horror, as his overwhelming firepower had no effect on the human ships. How are they doing this? Unknown, Admiral, his science officer reported. Their ships are using principles we don't understand. Jake's ship approached the Zephyrian flagship. Instead of firing weapons, it began broadcasting a signal directly into the alien communication systems. But this was not a normal radio transmission. It was something that interfaced with the consciousness of every being who received it, for the first time in their history. The 3 species of the Zephyrian Empire truly understood what they had done. They felt the pain of every human who had died in their attacks. They experienced the fear of parents watching their children burn. They knew the desperation of soldiers making final stands against impossible odds. But more than that, they understood what humans had become. They saw the vast network of consciousness that connected all enhanced beings across the galaxy. They felt the patient love that guided beings who could easily destroy worlds, but chose instead to protect them. Captain Zector fell to his knees on the bridge of his ship. The mental contact showed him that Jake Morrison remembered every detail of their last meeting. The human could have killed him during the interrogation months ago, could have tortured him for information, could have used him as a weapon against his own people. Instead, Jake had shown mercy to the alien who had murdered his friends and family. Admiral Zector whispered, "We have to stop this attack. We don't understand what we're fighting." But Admiral Kexvar was lost in his own visions. He saw the scope of the network that the enhanced beings had created. Millions of species across the galaxy were beginning to awaken with abilities like the enhanced humans. Every act of genocide committed by the Zephyrians had triggered new evolutions in other races. The Empire had not been conquering the galaxy, they had been awakening it. Dr. Rachel Martinez's ship interfaced directly with the Zephyrian computer networks, but instead of planting viruses or stealing information, she began sharing the technological knowledge that the enhanced humans had developed. Faster-than-light communication that could connect minds across space, energy sources that could power civilizations without destroying planets, medical technology that could eliminate disease and extend life for thousands of years. Ben Hayes used his matter manipulation abilities to demonstrate something even more incredible. He reached out to damaged Zephyrian ships and began repairing them. Metal flowed like water as he reconstructed broken hulls. Energy systems that had been overloaded by their own weapons were restored to perfect function. The Zephyrian crews watched in amazement as their ships were healed by the same beings they had come to destroy. Some alien commanders ordered their fleets to stand down. Others continued firing out of fear and confusion, but their weapons could not touch the enhanced humans who moved through space like ghosts. Jake brought his ship alongside the Zephyrian flagship. He used his phasing ability to step directly onto Admiral Kexfar's bridge without opening any doors or breaking any walls. The alien crew raised their weapons, but Jake simply stood there calmly. "You came here to destroy Earth," Jake said to the Admiral. "You've brought enough firepower to crack the planet and kill every living thing in this system." Admiral Kexfar could barely speak. The mental contact had shown him what the enhanced humans were capable of. They could have destroyed his entire fleet in minutes. They could have turned his own ships against each other. They could have reached into his mind and driven him insane. "Why don't you fight back?" the Admiral asked. "Because fighting back would make us the same as you," Jake replied. "The consciousness network only works if it's based on protection rather than destruction. If we became killers, we would lose everything that makes us who we are." Jake gestured toward the view screen showing Earth. The planet's bioluminescent patterns were visible even from space. Earth is not just the home of humanity anymore. It's the hub of a galactic network that includes every species that has ever faced extinction and chosen evolution instead. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Kexfar asked. "We want you to make a choice. You can continue trying to destroy others and eventually face the same extinction you've brought to so many worlds. Or you can join the network and learn to grow beyond the need for conquest." Jake showed the Admiral images of other enhanced beings across the galaxy, former enemies working together to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. Civilizations that had transcended the need for war and territorial expansion. "The universe is vast enough for everyone," Jake continued, "but only if we stop trying to take it by force." Captain Zector stepped forward. "Admiral, I request permission to surrender my ship." Admiral Kexfar looked at his captain with surprise. "Zector, what are you doing?" "I've seen what we really are through their minds, Admiral. We're not conquerors, we're not even predators, we're just frightened children playing with weapons. We don't understand." Other Zephyrian captains began broadcasting surrender messages. The mental contact with the enhanced humans had shown them possibilities they had never imagined. Technologies that could solve every resource shortage, ways of living that eliminated the need for territorial conflicts, forms of consciousness that made individual death irrelevant. Admiral Kexfar watched his empire dissolving around him, but for the first time in his military career, he was not seeing defeat. He was seeing transformation. "What happens to us now?" he asked Jake. "That depends on what you choose to become," Jake replied. "The network is always ready to welcome new members, but the choice has to be made freely." Jake returned to his ship and opened a communication channel to all enhanced humans across the galaxy. The final test had been passed. They had faced their greatest enemy with overwhelming force at their disposal and chosen mercy over revenge. Zephyrian Empire was beginning to evolve into something new. The war that had started with genocide was ending with the promise of transcendence for everyone, willing to embrace it. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. There were other empires in the galaxy, other species that might make the same mistakes the Zephyrians had made. A network would need to be ready to offer the same choice to all of them: evolution or extinction, growth or destruction, love or fear. The enhanced humans had made their choice long ago, when they decided that death was not the end but the beginning of something beautiful. 5 years had passed since the surrender of the Zephyrian fleet above Earth. The galaxy was a different place now. Where once there had been 3 separate species bound together by conquest and fear, there was now a growing network of consciousness. that connected dozens of worlds and millions of beings. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching ships from 20 different species dock at the orbital facility. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human organic technology had been merged with Zephyrian energy systems and enhanced by the crystal-based computers of newly awakened species from the outer rim. Dr. Rachel Martinez approached him with a datapad showing the latest reports from across the galaxy. Her abilities had evolved far beyond simple technology interface. She could now communicate directly with artificial intelligences and help biological minds merge with computer systems. The Centauri colonies are requesting assistance with their enhancement process, she told Jake. They lost 60% of their population to a plague before the network reached them. The survivors want to undergo the consciousness transfer to preserve their species' knowledge. Jake nodded. The enhancement process was no longer limited to species facing genocide. Any civilization that chose to join the network could undergo the transformation that would connect them to the galactic consciousness. But it was always voluntary. The network had learned from the architect legacy that forced evolution created tyrants rather than protectors. Ben Hayes joined them at the viewing window. His matter manipulation abilities had grown to the point where he could restructure entire asteroids into habitable worlds. He had spent the last year creating new homes for species displaced by the old Zephyrian expansion. The Rigel system is ready for colonization, Ben reported. I've prepared 12 worlds with different atmospheric compositions. The Nethius energy beings can inhabit the gas giants while the silicon-based life forms from Vega can settle on the rocky planets. Jake smiled as he watched a Zephyrian transport ship dock next to a vessel crewed by enhanced humans. The two species that had been mortal enemies now worked together so seamlessly that their children were learning each other's languages as naturally as their own. Captain Zichter entered the observation deck wearing the blue uniform of the new Galactic Cooperation Council. His reptilian features had not changed, but his mind had been enhanced through voluntary connection to the consciousness network. He retained his individual personality while gaining access to the collective knowledge of every connected being. Commander Morrison, Zichter said formally, then smiled. Jake, the Council has approved the next expansion of the network. We're ready to make contact with the Andromeda species that have been sending radio signals. Jake turned from the window to face the alien who had once killed him. The irony was not lost on either of them. The being who had tried to end humanity had become one of their strongest allies in spreading consciousness enhancement across the galaxy. Any indication of their technological level? Jake asked. Preliminary scans suggest they're about where we were before the network, Zichter replied. Separate species competing for resources, some conflicts, but nothing approaching genocide yet. Dr. Rachel consulted her datapad. The enhanced beings on 17 worlds are ready to serve as first contact ambassadors. We can offer them the same choice we offered everyone else. Jake nodded. The network had developed protocols for approaching new civilizations. They would observe first to understand the species' psychology and needs. Then they would make contact. Through enhanced beings who shared similar biological origins, the choice to join the network would always be offered freely with no pressure or coercion. What about the holdout systems? Ben asked. Are we still getting resistance from the Tau Ceti colonies? They're afraid of losing their individuality. Zichter explained. It's a common concern among species that have never experienced true consciousness sharing. Jake understood their fear. Before his enhancement he would have been terrified of merging his mind with others. The idea of losing his individual identity to become part of something larger would have seemed like death rather than evolution. But the reality was different. Enhanced beings retained their personalities, memories, and personal desires. They simply gained access to vast additional knowledge and the ability to cooperate at levels impossible for unenhanced minds. Jake was still Jake Morrison, the soldier, who had died defending a mining colony. But he was also connected to every enhanced human and allied species across the galaxy. A new voice joined their conversation through the mental link that connected all enhanced beings. It was the planetary consciousness of Earth itself, speaking through one of its mobile avatars. Jake, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the galactic core. Something ancient is awakening there. Jake felt a chill of concern. The galactic core was unexplored territory where radiation levels made conventional travel impossible. If something was awakening there, it was likely far older and more powerful than anything the network had encountered. Any idea what it might be? He asked. The energy patterns match theoretical models for architect-level technology. But these readings suggest something even more advanced. Dr. Rachel's enhanced abilities let her tap into deep space sensor networks across the galaxy. I'm seeing confirmation of the signals. Whatever it is, it's been dormant for millions of years, and it's definitely responding to the expansion of our consciousness network. Ben frowned. Is it a threat? Unknown, but given our experience with the Architect legacy, it's more likely to be another safeguard or teaching system. Jake made a decision. Prepare a long-range exploration mission. I want to investigate these signals personally. Captain Ziegler looked concerned. That's extremely dangerous, Jake. The radiation alone could destroy even an enhanced being. The network survived my first death, Jake replied with a slight smile. I think it can handle whatever we find out there. As Jake prepared for the mission to the Galactic core, he reflected on how far everything had come since that terrible day on Kepler-4 for to be. The mining colony where he had made his last stand as a human was now a memorial garden tended by beings from dozens of different species. Children who had been born into the network played together regardless of whether they were carbon-based, silic-based, or pure energy. The Zephyrian Empire that had once tried to conquer the galaxy through force had evolved into the backbone of a civilization based on voluntary cooperation. Former enemies worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to achieve alone. Dr. Rachel had established schools where enhanced beings taught newly contacted species about consciousness expansion and technological integration. Ben had created artistic masterpieces by reshaping matter at the atomic level, producing sculptures and buildings that seemed to grow like living things. Captain Ziegler had become a diplomat who helped resolve conflicts between species without resorting to violence, but Jake knew their work was far from finished. The galaxy was vast and full of civilizations that might repeat the mistakes the Zephyrians had made. The network needed to be ready to offer guidance and protection to any species that chose growth over destruction. As his ship prepared to launch toward the galactic core, Jake felt the presence of every enhanced being across the galaxy supporting him, millions of minds working together to solve problems and protect life wherever it emerged. The aliens had thought it was over when they killed the last human on a forgotten mining colony. They could never have imagined that their act of genocide would awaken something beautiful enough to transform the entire galaxy. Jake's ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying him toward whatever ancient wisdom waited at the heart of the galaxy. Behind him, the network continued to grow and evolve, spreading consciousness and cooperation to every corner of space. The war that had begun with the extinction of humanity had ended with the birth of something that would ensure no species would ever face genocide alone again. Death had become the catalyst for a form of life that could span galaxies and transcend time itself. The enhanced humans had kept their promise to teach the universe what happens when you try to destroy a species that refuses to stay dead. They had shown that consciousness, once awakened, could never truly be extinguished, and in the vast spaces between the stars, new minds were awakening every day, to join them in the eternal dance of growth and discovery that had replaced the ancient cycle of conquest and extinction.